Hello, this is BritJet's PSX Tips, the Aeroinks PSX 747 desktop PC simulation. This video is a short one, hopefully quite exciting, on how to make a circling approach following an ILS, so going around to land on the runway in the opposite direction. Okay, let's look at a circling approach. We're on the ILS to Chiang Mai in Thailand, Victor Tango Charlie Charlie, and we're here because we've diverted from Bangkok down to our last 5.5 tons of fuel, and we're on the ILS to 36, but we have a strong tailwind which is outside landing limits, so I'm actually going to fly a circling approach around to the east side of the airfield to land on runway 18. Now my co-pilot Sarah is not at all a happy bunny because she's been told that circling approaches never work properly, but I've assured her that I practiced this in PSX and nothing can possibly go wrong. So the first thing is we're going to fly an ILS, but not down to ILS limits, we fly it down to circling limits. So my circling limits today on category D aircraft on the plate there is 2400 feet. So I'll set that up now, and that's actually as low as we are going to go. I'll let things roll and I'll talk you through it. As we're moving in on the ILS then, you'll see the glide slope is coming in. But we're not going to fly the glide slope using the approach setting. We're going to use either VS or VNAV. I'll select VS because that's my preference today. The reason is glide slope doesn't capture that alt cell in the first place, and also at the bottom of your approach, if you want to engage another mode, the only way to get it would be to take out the autopilot and the flight director. So VS it is. I'm going to start down now. Quite a healthy rate of descent because of the tailwind, and we'll configure the aircraft just as though we would for an ILS, except that we're not going to take the landing flap. I'm just going to go with flaps 20. So we're going down to circling height, looking to see the airfield, looking to see that we have enough visual reference to fly our circling approach. I've put a range ring of 5 miles around the airfield for my situation awareness. If the circling approach minima was 1,000 feet and you could see the airfield higher than that, then fine, level off higher and fly the circuit at that height. Why not? It's going to help things. I can see the runway now. I'm happier that we're going to do the circling approach. If I couldn't see the runway or it wasn't good enough, then you would carry out the ILS missed approach here. And in fact, that is the approach you carry out whatever happens from now on. So if you're halfway through the circling approach and things go wrong, then that magenta line that you can see on the nav display is the one that you have to follow, and you do it by pointing the aircraft at the runway, going through your go around actions and selecting LNAV and making sure it goes that way. There's no future in going back up the ILS into the incoming traffic. So we need to position ourselves in the circuit, so I'm going to set the heading 45 degrees off, allowing for drift, like that. Start it turning and start the watch. The track line 45 degrees off and the timing 45 seconds. Don't change the timing for wind, just let it go for 45. Checklist. Now we have to do the landing checklist yet because we haven't got the landing flap down, so we're going to leave that towards the end of the downwind sector, and all this, as you can see, is being done with the autopilot in. So let's make it look like a circuit. I'm going to put my nav display to 5, center the display, and I'm actually going to wind the alt cell up to my missed approach altitude for the instrument approach, just in case things go wrong. Here's our 45 seconds, so I'm going to turn on now to my downwind point, allowing for wind. And now you should see something that looks quite familiar to you for the circuits that we did before. The point about this approach, of course, is it has to be done visually. You've got to keep the airfield in sight throughout. We're flying about a 1400 foot circuit, so I would think probably 40 seconds still air would be our timing. That's fine. If we were flying a 1000 foot circuit, then our timing would be 30 seconds. I think I'm a little bit narrow on that approach, so I'm on that spacing, so I'm just going to turn out a little bit. I'm going to zero the stopwatch, ready to go. And when we get a beam at the point, I'm going to give it 40 seconds, less my 20 knot tailwind, which would be 20, but I'm going to give it a bit more for mum, because turning in too close, if it goes wrong, never works. Back to my downwind heading, starting my stopwatch now. Gear down, please, Sarah. Oh, yes, the gear is down, sorry. Flap 30, please, Sarah.
Flap 30.
Okay, once she's done that, and I brought the speed back, I can ask for the landing checklist.
Landing checklist. Speed brake.
Armed.
Quarter brake.
3.
Landing gear.
Down.
Flapped.
30.
Cabin crew.
Warned. So here comes my 20 seconds. Okay, auto throttle coming out. Set the thrust to a little higher than 1.18 because we've got 30 flap down. Take the autopilot out. Flight director off. And you're now in the familiar circuit scenario. Speed with the thrust just less than 15 degrees of less than 20 degrees of bank. 5 degrees pitch, and aiming for a gradual rate of descent, and watching the trend vector on the nav display for the turn on. Now of course we've got no ILS glide slope here, so I've got to make my own judgment as to where I am, and I think I'm a little bit high, so I'm going to take some power off and go down to bottom hat. Datum thrust for this flap 30 into the wind is probably going to be about 1.21. And the datum pitch is probably going to be about middle hat. My rate of descent, 950 feet a minute, is fairly high. If it's above 1,000, you should be thinking about going around. But I'm comfortable with this. As I turn into the headwind, of course, I would expect that that would, if anything, be sufficient. So thrust coming back. On the centre line, I'm showing a bit high on the PAPIs, but the perspective looks good.
500.
Landing checks are complete. PAPIs don't necessarily always tie in on P3, of course. This is P3 I'm using here. I think the perspective looks about right to me. A little bit slow, a bit more thrust coming on. Just coming on the PAPIs now. Watching for ground effect, of course, but I'm slightly high, so that's fine. Sensible rate of descent. Notice my frog's feet just below the 5 line because I'm slightly high.
100.
Looking good. Frog's feet to the 5 line now. That's cool. 50 and above the concrete.
30.
Slight flare.
20.
Bit
10.
Bit of a high flare, but never mind. We're down. Selecting reverse. $80 knots, selecting reverse idle. Manual braking. And forward idle. Auto brakes are off. And Sarah's gone very quiet in the right hand seat. I think she's a happy bunny.